All right, we're back.
We're back.
God bless. A little technical
There you
difficulties, but
go.
we got it sorted out. Hopefully they can hear me now, but it's not like they need to anyway.
Fair enough.
So we were talking a little bit about your experience with your daughter and human trafficking. And, one of the things, just to get back in the track, was, something you think can start as an innocent date with someone you think is cute turns into 11 days of a nightmare.
Absolutely.
So, and that's how long it was before
Yeah.
you found her. How, what I was really curious about when I heard your story and you were recommended over to be on the show was, how does one go about finding their child when this occurs?
Well, I mean, there's all the ways, right? Like if somebody were to contact me and say, my child is missing, I have, a plethora of people that I could bring to sit around the table and try to come up with a solution to find your child. But I mean, as I'm sure you can imagine, there's different factors at play, like are they using drugs? Like what are they seeking? They're either running to something or running from something. And in our case, finding our child was extremely difficult, and it was by the grace of God that we found her, to be honest. And I've been told several times by both our private investigator, police that were there, that I maybe had probably a couple of days, and then we might not have seen her again. So,
Is it just because they were going to be moving her around so much?
well, yes, them moving her, but also her moving. So the unique thing about her situation is, everything happened in Dallas. They just as easily as they went north to Oklahoma, they could have gone south to Mexico. And I've been told if she had gone into Mexico, like that's it. That's pretty much, you're not going to see her again. But in a weird way, and for lack of a better word, I'll say, fortunately, she was taken, north, and it was, contacting law enforcement, trying to make a report the night everything happened, and then being diverted by that law enforcement agency to go to a different law enforcement agency that had no idea what they should be doing. And then it was 4 days of us literally sitting around twiddling our thumbs, just willing her to walk through the front door. And it was our private investigator in the middle of the night, I believe on night 4, that did his own kind of reconnaissance and did his own kind of investigation for, and he found her sex ad in Oklahoma, and he was able to initiate, a pretty big law enforcement presence pretty immediately. And, but even that immediate response by law enforcement did not get her back. It was a raid that happened on the hotel, where she was, but they had moved her to a different area. So they didn't get her. And that was pretty devastating.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Do you find with Ashlyn, when you guys are going out and raising awareness and doing advocacy work, like what route helps best to educate parents about just kind of the cautionary tales around teenage daughters and younger? Like what are some of the conversations you find are helpful in educating parents on this topic?
Well, I have a big heart for the runaway, if you will. The very first time our daughter ran away, she was 14 years old. And I say she ran away. She really was more or less just hanging out with friends outside of where she should have been. And she was gone for 2 days. And I was devastated. And my husband and I both thought all the horrible things, were happening, right? But I think now looking back, that was God preparing me. So from that, I say, when we have talked to parents of teens that are missing, female or male, it doesn't really matter. We say when they're found, and they will be found, they will. They will come home and we will discuss next steps. I cannot tell you how many, mainly moms that I've talked to, that have said to me, my daughter's been missing for 3 days, and I'm certain she's being sex trafficked. And I'm like, you're skipping about 10 steps. Like, what makes you believe they're being sex trafficked? Not minimizing what they're saying, of course. I mean, it's a very heavy thing on a parent to not know where your child is at any age. But to say, what makes you think that? Have you seen something? Have you read something? Like, what is pulling your focus that way? And 9 times out of 10, it's just that them being trafficked is the worst case scenario. So they go to that so that anything lighter than that will be easier to sit with. And I've learned over time that, like, truly our story is the worst case scenario. And my daughter is the small percent of another small percentage that made it out. So, yeah.
And so you're finding that most parents coming in to have these conversations, their children are being found. It's a smaller percentage.
Yeah, but
overall,
right. And yes, most children that are missing are with their friend or a boyfriend. Unfortunately, and my daughter actually found this for me, there was a trend on social media that was, if or I'll go missing if I get this many likes. And the whole thing is about, if you go missing, how long will you be gone before somebody looks for you? How long will you be gone before, your parents are all, hair on fire, trying to find you. And I think they're seeking validation in that. Yeah. And I understand it. I get it. But then there's also, just as, turn the page, there's also just as many kids that are out there that are running because they're running from something. They're running from their parents or school, or they're running to something. So, yeah.
Well, it's tough, right? Because you get into the web of conversations around any type of runaway situation. You've got anything from physical abuse, sexual abuse, drug abuse. It's like there's
number of things.
A web.
Yeah.
So, social media trends like that are always more harmful than helpful. But in a way, they're helpful to initiate the conversations. Absolutely. Of like, hey, look and see that this is actually a pretty big issue.
Yeah.
In our culture. And
I actually saw a statistic just the other day that said that runaways, once they're missing, I think it's 24 hours, their percentage to be, like, the likelihood of them being trafficked shoots way, way up. And ironically, law enforcement is finding that, and I say runaways, right, for lack of a better label, but these are actual people, right. But they have experienced some form of manipulation, grooming, something that could have easily put them into that life of being exploited online or in person, and they just don't recognize it for what it is. And unfortunately, I think there's going to be generations of people later that say, I ran away when I was 16 and this and this and this happened, and I never reported it because I didn't think it was anything. Does that make sense? And I really do. I think we're gonna see that, because this is unlike anything we dealt with when we were teens. Yeah,
the media age has become such in the last 10, 15 years. Absolutely. Where highly sexualized, high levels of grooming behavior that a child is never really going to fully understand. Most adults don't fully understand, especially if it's something that they didn't experience,
right?
Or then sought a lot of work on top of their experiences to resolve. I think we are going to see an influx of quite a few different issues. We talk on this show a few times with other professionals of, like, the rise in things like sex addiction, the rise in things like just illicit drug use, and the ways that those are changing and shifting. But definitely trafficking has been a really big conversation. And this is helpful on my end as a clinician, because you're right that most of my exposure and the discussions are like the media is the global level of, like, the movie, right. Like Taken. It's like, well, that's not what's happening in these rural states, right?
It's much easier than that. It's simpler than that. I think the movies kind of make it look like this big thing that it's just not. It starts off so innocent. I mean, I can tell you survivors that I know that it was their own parents that trafficked them and sold them. It has been boyfriends that have done it. It has been young adults, like in their 20s, acting as if they are high schoolers.
Yeah.
Befriending and getting into romantic relationships with people solely for the purpose of gaining their trust over 6 months to a year, only to ultimately have them sold online. It's it will break your heart and it will almost break your brain to just know the knowledge that I unfortunately know. If that's a good way to say it. I mean,
Yeah. I think it takes some spiritual fortitude to be
Yeah.
able to sit and talk about it, and not just like as you and I chat about it today, but all the other mediums in which you've gotten the information out there.
I'm so passionate about the education and advocacy part of it.
Yeah, and such is the case with anything meaningful. Someone's got to stand up and have the difficult conversations.
Absolutely.
You know what it reminds me of too is I worked in treatment, substance use treatment for the better part of a decade. We had human trafficking issues in treatment centers around the substance use side of things, a lot around like insurance fraud and stuff. So like, hey, I'll give you substances. If you go in there for 15 days, we get the claim, right, from the insurance company because they would get kickbacks from the centers, right? And then you come out, we'll put you up in a hotel, we'll send you to another one. And just so many people would pass away. It's really
I never
rough.
knew that. Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
But it's just anytime you start walking in these realms spiritually and to help people emotionally, you're going to be subjected to some really dark truths about reality. But that's a spiritual, I think, philosophical point too.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus said, "What's done in the dark will be brought into the light." And if my family is the catalyst for bringing things into the light, then so be it. I mean, honestly, this cannot continue to happen. People are not for sale.
Right. Yeah.
So
the private investigator came in, did his work. Then she came back.
Yeah, after multiple days after that, yes, she was finally recovered by law enforcement up in Oklahoma City, and when I saw her in the hospital, I don't know what I was expecting to see, but I just saw my little girl, but she was broken. She was but a shell of herself. She was very confused. She had been addicted to substances against her will, so. I think there needs to be a held space for that, for those that are addicted against their will, because they're not willingly jumping into that lifestyle. And so they don't understand necessarily what's all going on with their body and why do I automatically crave methamphetamines now? Why do I, want some heroin? So, but yeah, just finding her there, meeting her where she was at. She was so concerned that she was going to be in trouble for using drugs. And like more than anything else that had happened to her, she was like, I'm going to be in trouble for using drugs. And it was just 10, 11 days of just brainwashing and substances, and just her skew of things was just so shifted.
Yeah, and it goes to show too, like the fragility and vulnerability of any young human, right? It's like really in those early 20s, while your brain is still developing too. Anything younger than that, just the time we need to develop into our real understandings of the world and how tragic things can be, but also just the reality of situations of like what just happened. Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah, it was extremely rough. And right when it happened, I think my husband and I were still trying to wrap our heads around, hey, this just happened. And how do we get her the treatment she needs? How do we, like what do you do? Yeah. Right. And so, in our situation, we were, in the weeks leading up to this whole event happening in April of 2022, we had discussed sending her to a wilderness program because, I mean, she was bad. She was getting in trouble all the time. She will tell you she needed a spanking. She was being really bad. And we were going to send her to this wilderness thing. And when we got home from Oklahoma, they immediately called and they were like, oh my gosh, are you still going to send her? And I was like, no, being out in the wilderness is the last thing she needs. Yeah. She needs to be at home with her mom, resting and healing and processing. Yeah. And they said, no, we can help with that. Like, we are fully equipped. And I know a lot of those wilderness programs get a really bad rap, but this one did not. We sent her, I think, less than a week outside of her trauma. We just trusted professionals and we sent her, and they did all the antibiotic treatments that she needed, like every, modality of treatment that she needed, they did. And it was out of all of the treatment that she did over the subsequent, 2 years, that was the most effective, hands down. And so it's just kind of like, what do you do?
Right.
Because you can't just send her back to school. You can't just pat her on the
No.
back and go, you know what? You are strong and you're going to get through this. All right, well, you'll go back to school on Monday. Don't really talk to anybody about this. Have a good day. Unfortunately, though, that happens.
I would imagine it does. Yeah.
It happens more often than you think. And I think that is what makes these young people question, like, what happened to me? Because if they truly understood the depth of being sold, being used. I mean, let's take trafficking out of it. Let's just say sexual assault without fully understanding what happened to them and then not being given the proper time and ways to grieve that. Yeah. It's just going to cause more and more and more trauma.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and more compounded years into
Yes.
the adult years of not knowing how to talk about it, so then further isolating into
Absolutely.
progressed.
And I had a therapist tell me, you can deal with her trauma now, or you can deal with it when she's like 30 and 40. And it's going to be better for her if you tackle it now.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to. I fought that. I said, no, she's a teenager. She was only 15. She needs to live her life. She still has so much going on. And they said, you can tackle it now, or you can tackle it when she's into adulthood. And when this affects what kind of mom she is, what kind of employee she is, what kind of everything she is. Yeah. And I sit on this side of it, and I am cognizant of just how blessed we are that we had those resources to send her where she needed to go. And that we had, a guy that I had never met, laid eyes on, volunteer his time to organize a raid to get my daughter back. I understand that is just not the norm. And so what we can make the norm is awareness and education, making people understand, who buys people, who buys kids, who buys sex. I mean, we're not going to do that anymore.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty progressed sickness, and I think what, as I'm listening to you as well, and for those listening along, on both sides of it, right, like who organizes these things, it's like, well, there's a whole community out there of people willing and ready to be of service on these things when we have organizations who are educating in the proper ways and people know what's happening. And that's where I really respect what you guys are doing, is because, like, I know groups of men in my life, like I was telling you about my one buddy who goes and does the volunteer work on the weekends, who just feels called to do it.
Yeah.
All right. But that's because good people went and put together organizations and told them, hey, we need you here on these days, and groups of people show up to do it. Because there are far more people in our community who want to see an end to those things, and those who are engaging in it. It's just sometimes evil is louder. Right.
Absolutely.
And it's even louder in our own individual lives, right? So there's that varying degree of, like, the progressive issue, even for the person engaged in those things, had a chance to tackle it early on and didn't get the resources. The stuff you guys are doing, you and your husband, this is how we get in front of it.
Absolutely. And such a big thing is, where we're at as an organization is, I was telling you offline, this month marks 2 years that we've been an entity, and it's just been leaps and bounds of growth and things that we're doing. But I was really struggling to find, like, our footing, like, where do we fit? And in the human trafficking, human trafficking community, there's all these different facets, right? There's, like, rescue and recovery. Well, I know that would be incredibly triggering for my husband and I. So I'm wise enough, I think, to say that is not us. That is not us to go kick in the door. And I mean, I would, but I don't know what my mental health would do for that. Right. But then there's also wonderful organizations that help on the healthcare side. I was in healthcare for over 15 years, and I can tell you, being on the healthcare side of things, meeting these girls where they are, pregnancy test, STD testing, all of those follow-ups are so necessary, and not just mental health healing, but physical healing as well. And so in that, just trying to figure out where do we fit, and so where I feel like we fit is we are serving those that are serving. And so we may not be the group that goes and kicks in the door and works with Homeland Security and does all those ops, but you know what? We can help fund you. And will give a shout out. There is a wonderful group called Freed People that our private investigator actually works with, and they are doing monumental things kind of in that space. There is another group called Reclaim 611 that is led by my friend Carrie. She is a nurse practitioner. They are doing great things with just healthcare, aftercare resources, just being available, for them to say, what do you need from a physical perspective, and it's just great. And so we want to serve those that are already serving, because that is what happened with our daughter. That is, the community rose and supported her. So how can we rise and support other, communities that are, dealing with this?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That's, I mean, a wonderful mission, and definitely in this area too. It's like, so I moved from California 2 years ago, and one of the things, my family, my aunt and uncle, they've lived in Bedford forever.
Okay.
But I did not realize how often my phone would be blowing up with Amber Alerts moving here, compared to somewhere like Southern California, where there's more people you would think maybe more often.
Yeah.
And then when I moved here, it was like every day. I was like, whoa, this is like a thing here. It's wild. And so to know that there are initiatives growing around these things I've seen some of it since moving here and doing the work that I do, but it's encouraging to sit down.
I mean, there are initiatives. Unfortunately, like when it comes to the Amber Alert, I have nothing but great things to say about an Amber Alert, but there needs to be something additional. Because I will tell you, my daughter, having been a runner for a while before this even happened, we were told time and time again, she doesn't qualify for an Amber Alert. Even when this event happened in April of 22, we were told she doesn't qualify for an Amber Alert. And I'm thinking, what do you mean doesn't qualify? She is a minor. I am her mother, and I don't know where she is. And it has now been days. We're not talking one day. We're talking multiple days, not hearing from her, not seeing her. She didn't just vanish.
Right.
And so one of the things that happened as part of our story is we initially, my husband, when he couldn't find her at the game, he went to a police officer and tried to give a report to say, can you radio down? Like, this is what she looks like. Can you do anything? And he was very quickly dismissed as, well, she ran away, so you're just going to have to wait for her to come back. And he was trying to explain, we're not from Dallas. Like, we're still 30 something miles from home. Like, we don't just live down the street. She has no idea how to get back. She doesn't drive. She didn't have a car. And they said, and he was asking, can we file a report? And they kept saying, no, you need to go home to North Richland Hills, which is where we live, and file a report there. So I think in his shock and in just trying to follow instructions, he drove all the way home to North Richland Hills, having to leave my daughter, like knowing she's there somewhere, right? Yeah. Came here, filed a report, but even then, what are they going to do? The event, it happened in Dallas.
Yeah.
This PD can't do anything. So all that to say, we were fortunate. There was a bill sponsored by Senator Kelly Hancock, and we got to testify before the Criminal Justice Committee in Austin to say, hey, this happened. We should not have been punted down the road. Yeah. We lost days.
Oh, I bet.
We lost days at the minimum. But even months and months and years later, there is still investigations that cannot happen, even with our own Homeland Security and the FBI, because that initial law enforcement entity just refused to take a report. They just labeled her a runaway and let it go. And that was part of what we testified, in Austin, is to say, no. Yeah. And so they voted unanimously against it, to say, if somebody, not just a child, you, me, her, anybody, if anyone goes missing, it is that law enforcement jurisdiction that has to look for them immediately and until there's evidence that they've moved on somewhere else. But so.
Yeah. Well, that's good that they were willing to listen.
They were mouths open, like shocked. And I have tried to push many people for a like a Senate hearing, like just a hearing to find out what kind of unraveled from that. And nothing's happened yet, but I have a feeling some things are going to come from that. So,
yeah, you know what also doesn't shock me too is that because of the lack of the report in that county or district, that now there's all this gridlocked red tape in this bureaucratic system to not go and find the culprits. God willing, those things change.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm crazy, but anybody that's lost, no matter their age, sex, background, anything, reason, it doesn't matter. If somebody needs to go find them, somebody needs to go look for them. Yeah. They're valuable to somebody.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's unfortunate because most of them are labeled runaways. I can tell you now, you know, me being mid 40s, yeah, I just aged myself. If I go missing tomorrow, the law enforcement could very easily just tell my husband, well, you know, she just decided she didn't want to be with you anymore. You know, she's just gone somewhere. That's not right, because he would know that's not in her character. Something is very wrong here. But truthfully, it's not a crime to just disappear.
Yeah.
But it should be, especially for minors.
Yes, it really
it's
should
not
be.
safe.
No.
So.
And there is it's such an interesting concept, right? Because I talk with, let's say, like I have an older gentleman on my caseload who's an isolated older man. We talk all the time. So like in most of those cases, you're talking about like really progressed problems, sometimes addictions, sometimes like severe codependencies where like they're just cantankerous to be around, these kind of things. And I have to remind these older men, like you could very easily be isolated without community, and then what happens when you have you fall and break your hip or have a heart attack? Like, they're not going to find you till days later. I mean, and hopefully you're salvageable at that point.
Yeah,
right. That's one aspect of it. But then on the flip side, even when you are surrounded by the community, one would hope that it is our community that would care if we went missing. You know. We've got to be connected in these messages, but it takes the untangling of the webs to not get caught in unnecessary minutia.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And, you know, I always, you know, I tell parents that have reached out to me before, oh, my kid's missing, you know, we're going to find your kid. One way or another, we're going to find your kid. If no one else is looking for your kid, we are looking for your kid, and we will deploy resources to look for your kid. And you know, they're always found, right? But it's a matter of, is it a day? Is it an hour? Is it a month? You know, but you're right. It takes community. Like you just can't do it on your own. And I am so thankful to be part of this community in the anti-trafficking space, because like I mentioned, Freed People or Reclaim 611, those are just two that I know of that are just so heavy in the fight. I mean, you've still got Traffic 911 and Unbound Now. It truly is these enormous groups of people that if no one else is looking for you, they will deploy resources and look for you. And then when you're found, there are resources for that. There are resources for, you know, your family, everything. Yeah. And so it's really this community that, like, for us, we didn't even know existed, and you don't know it exists until you need it.
Right. Yeah.
Unfortunately.
I mean, truly. The only reason I've ever known that these exist is because of the nature of working in therapy, and then also the treatment backgrounds of like trying to, you know, a family calls in and like, oh, we heard that they were at this treatment center. It's like, so-and-so was here 7 months ago. You know, who knows where they're at now. So, you know, you get, like you said, when you need the information, you get the background of like, whoa, there's a lot of people working on this stuff. But I think it takes a whole community to really start having the conversations rooted in reality. One of the things I liked that you were sharing that's encouraging to me to hear, and I imagine people listening, is that we will find your kid. One day, 1 week, 1 month, we will find your kid. And where I want to drill down on that is because, like, as an outsider, observing with support for this fight, and would advocate with anybody who wanted to have these conversations, my knowledge has always been, I mean, there are kids that just never get found.
There are.
Yeah. And where I hear your message there's a lot more hope in that message than I think what gets crammed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it's interesting. I guess I would want to hear
Mm-hmm.
your perspective on this, because the only media I ever hear on these kind of things is just like the side of it where the kid didn't get found.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's just the nature of media in general, is that negative things travel
Yeah,
quicker.
I think so.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, there are some that unfortunately don't get found. And, everybody doesn't want to talk about that. It's taboo, because it's like, well, they didn't just disappear into a puff of smoke, right? So
right.
they're somewhere. But I can say my perspective on that is, we won't stop. And my daughter, it was 11 days.
Yeah.
I can tell you, had it not been for prayer, and I say prayer just hands down, if I had not had a community of just prayer warriors behind us, I don't know that it would have stopped at 10 days. I think it easily could have gone on. We were told we had a few days maybe to where she was completely overdosed and gone.
Yeah.
And I've spoken about this before, and I speak about it freely, but there was also a point in those days where she was gone where I was prepared kind of by law enforcement. They said they wanted me to pack a bag of like all of her DNA, because they were going to bring dogs in to look for her. And I think they kind of cushioned it for me, but I was told months later, after this had happened, that after the initial failed raid and they didn't know where she was, they had arrested her trafficker. It was kind of like, where is she though? They didn't have, the investigators didn't have the heart to tell me that they did not think that she was going to be found alive. And my daughter would sit here and tell you, she had also come to a realization of, she knew she was going to die. She knew it. Like, she had already come to peace with that.
Yeah.
She just didn't know when or how.
That's a tragic side when you hear any of the survivors who've come out of it, right? If you listen to any of those stories of like that, they just kind of had to accept that this is it.
Yeah, this is it. And I've asked her before, like, why didn't you try to call me, or why? And she, I haven't used drugs, but for her, she was like, when you've done so many drugs, it really numbs you out to the things that you care about, because you don't want to think about that. It'll make it too real. So, she just says she just kind of accepted it, that I'm probably going to overdose. Because, she was being fed just drugs that she had not had before. And fentanyl, don't get me started on fentanyl. Yeah. So.
And there's certain, I guess, aspects of like master manipulators, all right, especially on the young, impressionable, vulnerable populations, whether that be vulnerable because of mental health condition or vulnerable because of age. They utilize tactics that are extremely effective and extremely domineering.
Well, and the more they get away with it, they do it again, and they're a little better each time.
Yes.
The man that took my daughter from the Mavericks game at the AAC, her instance, like when he was finally arrested, this was his third time luring and promoting prostitution of a minor. His third time. And also, unfortunately, his third time to be let go. Yeah. And he's still out on the streets today. But I do see what you're saying. If they're allowed to continue, it will get better and better and better. And that is how they hone their craft at manipulating.
Right. It's like if you flip it into like just like a mundane, everyday, practical experiences, like this is any salesperson, right?
Right.
If you give them enough calls, eventually they learn the script, right? And it becomes very pressured, and a lot of people succumb to it, right? This is just a very, very dark form of that. And they find the vulnerable, typically in these cases due to age, right? This person is fully capable with all their faculties.
It's age, it's mental health, it's all the things. We were a intact family unit. My husband and I, we've been married since she was 2 years old. She did not have a great relationship with her biological dad. My daughter didn't. And she was having a hard time at school, just with boys and friends. And I think all of that is a
Yeah.
perfect storm. So it doesn't have to be, fit into the mold of a broken family. One of the parents is an addict. One of the parents is gone. No, we were an intact family unit. She had everything she needed to live a great life. And she was just bad. I told you, she just needed a spanking. She was in a really bad place. And unfortunately, I look back on it now and it didn't take much. It wouldn't have taken anything to convince her. It would have been as simple as, hey, you're really pretty and I value you. And it just happens just that quick. And I look at, and now like my blinders are off, right? And I see teens everywhere and I'm just like, she's insecure about her body. She's got an eating disorder. She just wants a guy to like her. That mom is not even paying attention. I was just at the airport a couple weeks ago with my best friend, and we're walking out of the airport like with our suitcases. And these two girls, they had to have been like 13, maybe. We're just walking up, just the two of them, and instinctively, my best friend and I were like, "Where's their mom?" Like we were like, "Where's an adult?" Because that is so vulnerable, just right there. Yeah. And the mom was several yards behind him. I think she was giving him space, but just that easy of, hey, they got suitcases. They're going somewhere together. I could approach them easily and say, hey, you've never been to the airport by yourself. Let me show you around the airport. You see what I'm saying? It's just that easy. Yeah. And I'm not a predator. So imagine predators.
Yeah. Who are
that's all they do is study. And
Yeah, it's like the pickpocketers, right? In other foreign countries. They will find tactics that you will never see coming, and that's how the trafficking industry works.
And for my daughter, it was, hey, let's go smoke some weed and go to a restaurant, which was not uncommon. There are restaurants all around the AAC. Yeah. Hey, let's go there. Let's hang out until the game's over. Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And you just, like you said,
it just happens so fast.
Then she comes back. How does your daughter's story kind of transition into those kind of post years?
How's she doing?
Yeah.
So she cracks me up. She is 19 now, and she is very much 19. I say that all the time. She is more normal, I think, than she's ever been, but she is also still, I think, enjoying being young. I think she missed out on 15, 16, 17. And so I still think at 19, she's still kind of catching up on, all those years. She, she still has her triggers, but she is clean. She has been clean about 2 years now. She lives independently, which again, if you had told me she would be doing that, I would have laughed in your face. She truly is just living her life. When all of this happened, we put her in treatment immediately. So then she was in school in all these various states that she was in, Alabama, Utah. And so we didn't even know, like, what grade are you even in, And so eventually she started taking her GED, and she tomorrow will take the last stage of her GED test. So,
nice.
Yeah. So providing she passes that, which I think she will, she will have officially gotten her GED. And she said something to me a couple weeks ago. She said, I should have had my diploma, kind of like looking down on the GED. And I said, no. No, you finished, and you finished well, and you finished strong. And I was telling her, you can, the world is your oyster right now at this age. You can really do anything you want, and I said, you can, go to technical school, you can start college. I said, you can go to a 4-year university. Our son is graduating college this year as well. And she goes, oh, I can't go to a university. And I said, why? You've got a hell of an admissions essay.
Yeah, truly.
So, I mean, so she's really just rebuilding. I mean, I think sometimes, it gets to her, but she's also more aware, I think, than ever before, and more than she ever wanted to be. She can pick up on a bad vibe with a person better than anybody.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. When you get the support and the resources you need to around just anything difficult in life, your ability to understand reality is second to none.
Absolutely.
And then it's that toning it, like tuning it into the proper channels, right? So that it's not like, for those who are listening, right, who've been through hard times, we often talk about that on this channel of like, there are settings in which we need to be a little more vigilant, and settings where being vigilant is not so helpful, right? And
Yeah.
I think anybody who does their work is really good at that, of like when to listen to their gut and when to just go with the flow.
Yeah. Well, she listens to her gut all the time, and I am thrilled, and I am so thankful to be her mom, and that I think most importantly that I still get to be her mom. That she easily could have been taken from me for a stupid boy that she thought was, cute, and all that to say, she is not the same as she was before, but I think she's better. I think she's a different person, but I liked the old her, and I like this one too. And she's pretty remarkable. So
Yeah, that's wonderful.
yeah.
I think another aspect too is like how, just even when you were recommended and I look, it's like your guys's whole presentation, right, is positive. You hear, I remember when you were recommended over, I didn't know what to expect,
Yeah.
right? When I go and look, and all you see is smiles, right? The pictures that you have, everybody behind you is smiling. There's such a positive movement behind what you guys are doing. And that's encouraging to see right in our backyard here.
Yeah. Yeah. It's truly the blessing I never knew I needed. If you were to talk to me when I was in my 20s, when I had Natalie, hey, this terrible thing's going to happen, and it's going to change the trajectory of your marriage and your life and your career and everything. Of course, what, me? But now I run our nonprofit. I run Ashland like pretty much full time now. And I have never felt more professionally fulfilled and blessed than I am right now. And, it's not about the money. It's how many people can we reach? Yeah. And my daughter has also said, if my story can touch one person, then like it was worth it. Right. So I think that's a pretty strong outlook to have.
Yeah.
All things considering.
Yeah, I think so. And it appears that that's the case. I mean, it's nice to just be able to sit with you and hear it and share it with the one or two or more here who would connect with it. And, and with any topics related before that we've had, I already know with our viewership that there's going to be people who connect with this and needed to hear it.
Yeah. And I love that because, being in the anti-sex trafficking community, it's very heavy on sex trafficking, but a big part of it is also sexual assault. Just sexual assault as a whole. If you weren't trafficked, but you were still sexually assaulted, like, okay, that you still deserve to be heard and you still deserve justice. And, we want to be part of that. We want to help in any way that we can, because all the bad things, the worst case scenario is what we had to deal with. And so, like, nothing shocks us, so it's almost like, how can we help you? Like, you're not going to shock us. You're not going to turn us off of it. Like, how can we help? So that's what we want to do, is we want to serve those that are serving, help the helpers, if you will.
Right. And so with that being said, who should be reaching out to Ashland? Like, who are you trying to reach that you want to be reaching out, who might need your guys' assistance?
Well, my heart is always with the survivor and the runaway, and just anybody that has experienced anything, anyone that has felt like they weren't seen or that they weren't heard. And especially as these survivors, especially like if it happened when they were a teen, as they're growing up into their adult years, how is this impacting you? And unfortunately, especially through Reclaim 611, they work very heavy with survivors. And I know of two that are beautiful, and they are moms, and they are wonderful human beings, and they, are now advocates, and they are a big part of the awareness and education initiatives. And that's what my daughter ultimately wants to do. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
It's super neat.
Yeah. And then so Ashlyn, you guys would take calls, whether
Mhm.
it be from survivors, but also maybe organizations who are looking to get into the fight and to support
Yes,
them.
yes. So we want to, consult with groups that are just kind of up and coming, to help them kind of find their footing. But we also want those that are established to reach out to us and say, hey, we have blank. We have an initiative that we're working towards. I'll give an example. October 20th, we are going live, Ashland, with a online auction where all of the proceeds are going to go directly to an outreach team that I know of that is actually on the streets in Dallas, meeting these girls exactly where they are. And it's organized by a really good friend of mine. And I asked her, for a wish list. And she kind of, water and snacks and all this is no, no, no. What is your what do you really need? And I told her, no holds barred, just what do you need? Condoms, feminine wipes, Red Bulls, water, snacks, everything. And so that's what we want to do. We want to be able to really show up in full force for her and say, here's some resources that you need that just go beyond the basic. Here's a bottle of water. But they are out there, boots on the ground, on the street, talking to these girls and giving them an opportunity for a safe exit
Yeah.
from the life, to say, hey, if you are, because not everyone wants an exit, right? You've talked to addicts all the time. Not all of them want to quit. That's not what it's about, but it's meeting them where they are. But for those that are in it, totally, completely against their will, and that understand, hey, I can get out of this. This is a choice, and I can move past this. And there are resources out there that won't just get me to a safe space, right? That's just step one. All the aftercare, there are people out there that will do this. That's who we want to partner with, because even just one safe exit can have a ripple effect.
Yeah.
Easily. So.
Yeah. I mean, some of the things, even I remember in California, the aftercare all the way down to did they give you a tattoo that you didn't like and do a cover-up tattoo? My artist who did all my stuff in California, he would do free cover-up tattoos of the gang-related stuff. And
yeah, there's branding and stuff. And they have tattoo artists that will do the removal stuff. And
it's just whatever you can think of, it's out there for that support. And
but they don't know. They don't know that it's out there, and they don't know that it's available. But also they think, oh, it's too much money. Well, you don't owe anything. You've already done enough. Let us help you. Let us serve you. Yeah. And so, in some of the groups I talk with, they also have a safe house. They have either a house or an apartment. I know both situations. And they say, let me give you a safe exit and not just put you in front of a room full of cops. Let me put you in an apartment and get you some clothes and some food, and let's get you far away from this, get you in a good mental space, and then let's let you talk to people. So there's just layers and layers and layers upon support, and I just don't think that survivors are fully aware of it.
No,
and certainly
very
not
rarely.
Parents, right? If there's a survivor that is still a minor, these parents think, oh, they need to go to therapy, then they need to go back to school. Well, no. I mean, this is very traumatic things that have happened to them. And truthfully, my daughter didn't talk openly about her experience till close to a year in. We started learning details just bit by bit by bit, just her casually dropping it because she had no memory. So just because your child has run away, if they were gone more than 24 hours, you need to be asking some hard questions once they've had time to really sit and simmer with it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And that time frame too, in a safe environment, sounds about right.
Absolutely.
Right, with parents and trusted other adults and things like that. It's going to piece over a year, 2, 3.
Yeah. And if your child doesn't identify you as a safe person, because
you're never going to
parents, they're never going to open up to you. Let me show you somebody that they can. If they are a survivor of sexual assault, I've got at least 3 people right now that'll just give you a call on the phone and be like, hey, let's meet for coffee.
Right.
We have the resources. We just need people to understand that they're there. And then we need donors that are willing to help fund these things, because it's not cheap. It's not cheap. We want to be able to distribute Narcan. We want to be able to distribute all of the things and fund the rescue operations, but it's not It's volunteer run, right?
Yeah.
But it can be so costly. But we'll meet the need.
Yeah.
Whatever the need is, God will provide. He always does.
Yeah. You open up the doors and good things happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And there's a huge piece there too, like with, when we get calls and stuff, and I've always dealt with this in my practice too, is like I'll get the call, my loved one, so-and-so, right, who's an adult or otherwise needs support. And that conversation to the seasoned clinician is always, geared towards having that conversation with the person who picked up the phone. What about resources for you? How are you doing?
Yeah.
Right. And if you don't ask, you never know. But
Yeah.
the amount of times over 15 years when I ask that question that someone starts to break down in tears on the other end of the phone because they haven't been asked. It's just resources for the community, right,
Yeah,
is what's
yeah.
important that I hear that you're offering of like,
Oh, yeah.
whether that's the family member or
If
the
any,
person
yeah,
affected.
the parents, because I will say we lost, it's so unfortunate, but we lost friends. We had members of our own family, my husband and I both, that couldn't identify. I mean, obviously, they couldn't identify with what we had gone through. So they kind of blocked themselves off. They didn't know how to talk to us. They didn't know how to be there for us. So my husband and I really kind of supported each other. I mean, which is great for your marriage, right? But yeah, I mean, we're still rebuilding and gaining trust with, new friends and family members that had all but cut themselves off from us just because they didn't like the way something was handled or they didn't understand something. And those parents need support. Those caregivers need support. I don't care if your kid's 25. If something horrible has happened as a parent, you're still going to be affected.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
if you're advocating for someone by calling in and saying, hey, they need help, then automatically you need help too. Because if you didn't feel the urge within yourself, how can you help somebody else?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's that biggest takeaway when we have a desire for somebody else to do and be better. It's because we need that support too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, especially when it's an adult reaching out. It's like,
Absolutely.
interesting. Tell me more.
Yeah. Do tell.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, we're here for it.
Absolutely. Any other just kind of like direct information, cautionary tales, information that you think that the viewers listening and tuning in today need to hear from you?
Well, yes. To all the teenagers out there, it's hard being a teenager. It does get easier, but it is hard. But don't run away. For the love of all that is holy, do not run away. Don't try to get attention and do that. It never ends well. My other message is to families of survivors, no matter the age of the survivor, right? You may not know all of the details. You may not need to know all of the details. They just need you to show up for them. And if that is urging them to get help, urging them to utilize resources, there is absolutely no shame in that. This is something that you cannot heal from independently.
Yeah.
Right? Like you can't just, I'll fight through it. You can't.
Right.
Somebody used you in the worst way and potentially sold you. No. And then my message is for predators and people that buy sex. I say people because it's not just men. Yeah. It's not. It was a woman that actually took the photos of my daughter and put her in the ad.
Right.
It was a woman.
Yeah.
So because when my kid, I'll sidebar on this. When my kids were younger, I always said, if you get separated from me in the store or whatever, find a mom. Like find a mom, because moms, there's like a code,
Sure.
If a kid comes up to me and says, "Hey, I'm lost," well, come on, let's find your mom. But women aren't necessarily safe either. But my message to predators, men, women, stop buying sex. First of all, it's illegal. You're gonna be busted. It may not be the first time or the fifth time, but you are going to get busted, and it will be incredibly embarrassing. And it will also be something you will have to heal from. However, buying people is so last century. Like we're not doing that anymore. And there are agents and, FBI and HSI and all of these groups that we work with that can and will work undercover in some kind of capacity, and hell will rain down on you.
It will.
It will. And you will be busted, and it will not go well. So how about you just not buy sex?
Yeah. Well, there's something to be said on both sides that for those listening, I'm sure you hear every week, but I would highlight and just echo is that we don't heal in an echo chamber. You have to be a part of a community.
You have to.
And without community support, really anything, and I'm sure, I guess I would say I hope that you guys listening here week in, week out, the different people we bring on always touch on, the problem progresses without support. If you don't get support, it only gets worse. It doesn't get better. That's the message from what you were sharing that I would want to link into any of the conversations that people following along with our platform here week in and week out. And you raise a really brilliant point that if you are engaged in problems and issues that cause consequences in your community, it is not if, it is when you will get caught and when you will have to face major consequences. That is a given.
Absolutely. It's not worth it.
Yeah. And like we were saying earlier, it's a matter of time in our lifetime. If people who struggled with alcohol thought prohibition was bad, we are headed for major reform.
You are absolutely right.
If you are messing around with some of these things, you are headed for major trouble.
Yeah.
It's going to be the pendulum swing. Society is going to respond to the frivolity around people's bodies and sexual immoralities. It's going to happen. Do I think that the reaction will be the greatest? Not across the board. I think there's going to be extremists, but it's going to happen either way. And in the middle is the balance of like the things that actually need to happen where the pendulum balances back into. But if you're messing around in these realms, it's a matter, I think, in my humble opinion, it's a matter of 5-10 years before you're going to be really slammed down on. I think society's over it.
Yes. Yes. And there's a thing called statute of limitations. So even if you do it once and then you change your life around and you're living a great life, well, you know what? It can still come back.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that really is, a very strong message. And I think that is something that people need to understand. And not just, the pendulums swing like what you're talking about, but there are legislators that are just fed up. And it's really across the aisle. It's not really one group or the other, one faction. It is across the aisle. And, I mentioned that because this horrible thing happened to our family, but like my husband is actually running for office and this happened to him as a dad and as a man, and as a dad and a man, he is not going to stand for this. And, God willing and the creek don't rise and people vote, he's going to be a legislator, and he's just an example of one of many that are going to be in there to crack down on these laws that are saying, no more.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not a political party issue.
It's not. This is humans.
Being.
Yeah.
Here, where is it? Here and here. Where can the people find you? Where's your website? How can they get in contact with you?
So my website is www.aisling.com, AISLING. So, maybe you can post it or something because no one knows how to spell
it. We'll have Aisling, the organization, the information, the links as we post all this, whether it be short clips or in the YouTube, but you guys will be able to find that. It's already pretty posted on the Facebook if they go over there. I have a question that I ask guests when they're new on the show the first time. Ready. If we're going to build a mental health amusement park and you got to build a ride at this amusement park, what would it be called? What color would it be? What would it do?
A ride? Well, it would be pink. It would have to be pink. I don't know. I think the swings.
Oh yeah.
The swings that go around because it's so nice.
Yeah, those are fun.
Yeah.
What would you call it?
I don't know.
We can call it I don't know. I don't think that name has been taken yet.
It's the park that shall not be named.
Okay.
There you go.
Fair enough.
It's up for interpretation.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Ladies and gentlemen, Brooke Morris with Aisling.
Thank you.
We break the cycle here every Thursday afternoon at 12:30 p.m. We will be back next week with a returning guest. Jessica Seidel will be joining us. She's been on the show many times. We look forward to sitting down with her. But for this week, it was such a blessing, Brooke, to get to sit down with you, and we just appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.